Hey, film friends, I'm Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film, a podcast where we break down movies. Some of my closest friends and special guests. But today I'm ready to talk solo about love and fear across multiple time periods and genre stylings. Guys, it's Bertrand Bonello's La Bête. So how's my French? Guys, it's The Beast. Okay, guys, so, the impetus for me to record this episode today about Bonello's film, which is a film I've been hearing about kind of all year. I think it did really well in a festival a long time ago, back in 23, and is just sort of this genre mashup, and the people that love it, and there's a lot of Bonello stands coming around and being like, you like Nocturama, look at this thing, and it's been showing up on critics' year-end lists, and so I had to check it out for myself. And, when you watch a movie and then you come out and you go, how did I feel about this movie? Oh, okay. I had this I liked, this I didn't like. And then as you think, as you reflect, as you read, it just kind of rises in your estimation. That, I think, is The Beast for me this year. It's also what happened with Pascal Plant's Red Rooms, a film we could discuss at some other point, but another one really worth checking out. And I still have some issues with Bonello's film, as we will get to, but I do think it is quite a bold work. And as you guys know, I tend to respect and admire filmmakers who swing for the fences. So, no use messing around here. Let's get into it. Plots, themes, pros, cons. Let's do it all real quick. Let's get right after it. So, plot details. You have got basically here, and we won't do spoilers until the very end, but if you want to know absolutely nothing about time or love or fear or anything, then you probably need to stop it and watch it first, but I'm just going to be giving you the basics right now. You got 3 time periods, guys. 3, okay? 2044, 2014, and let's say around 1910 in France. 2014 is in LA, and 2044 is, who knows, something sci-fi dystopian. But they're speaking French for the most part, although they slide in and out of English at times, which will both amuse and maybe frustrate you. So anyway, look, it's 2044. There's a woman. Her name's Léa Seydoux. She is dynamite. The best part of this film, she is the anchor. She's the emotive center. She's the reason that this film gets as high as a score as it does from me. I just want to say that up front. So basically what's happened is 2044 AI is taken over. Oh, that seems really far from reality. And so humans have gotten kicked out of jobs, like something like the unemployment rate is something like 67%. And so the option becomes, hey, as she's talking to this computer, because her job is to like inspect data cores or something just absurd. He's like, well, what you could do is undergo this operation to eliminate all feelings. And in order to do that, we've got to walk you through all of your past lives in this sort of soupy black goo where you're kind of reclining and passed out. So, okay, right there, touchstone point number 1. What movies did I just describe? Okay. A, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So, right, I'm going to go back through my past memories in order to erase feelings so that I can move into something better in the future. It's definitely there. It's a text you can't avoid. I think also the goo she's kind of hiding in recalled to me ScarJo in Under the Skin, Glazer's film. But the rest of the movie is not really about aliens or anything like that. But I think that touchstone is there. And there are other ones besides. The reason I'm giving you them is so not only can you visualize them, but also to see the fact that there are a lot of points that he's pointing at and going into that when put together as a genre mashup, make maybe, perhaps, if the film works for you, a more powerful work top to bottom. So she wants to go undergo this operation. Actually, she's very hesitant too, okay? Because she fears The film opens on a green screen setup of her acting out like a modern movie. And the fear is the beast, which is this unforeseen thing kind of lurking just out of frame. And it's her sense that something bad is going to befall her at some point. That's what she's wrestling with throughout throughout this film. So, yeah, it's a machine that helps you purify your DNA. Any emotion left over from past lives. I already said all that. So then we kick into a film that it's basically tripartite. So, tripartite. You got the 1910 France, which plays a little bit, a friend said, like Scorsese's Age of Innocence. Think period drama. Think staid and buttoned up. Think that. That's 1910 France. 2014 LA. I know the word Lynchian is overused, but it's here, and you cannot avoid it. Mulholland Drive is the touchstone I've seen a lot of people quoting. I think that is an absolute masterpiece, so I do not want to say that. To me, the way that this is filmed with the camera is a lot closer to Inland Empire, which is another Lynchian flick. Not as good, but it's there. And the way he's portraying LA as this like fearful place where something, like the beast, right? The titular beast is just out of frame and could come for you at any time. So the film cuts back and forth between these segments, and each branch is a different genre that is underscored by the theme of loneliness. So back up a second. This will get us into the theme a little bit. This is based on a novella by Henry James. I believe it's called The Beast in the Jungle. Now, that is a story I have not read, but I will summarize it for you briefly as such. Here's a guy who is so afraid to do anything for fear of this unknown thing that's coming after him that he becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think that's kind of the James novella in a nutshell. So we get basically a sci-fi epic about the fear of falling in love. That's kind of broadly speaking, but what you get is a mashup, as I said, of dystopian sci-fi, historical period drama, and in the 14th segment, almost stalker horror. Again, it's more Lynchian than it is Wes Craven or something like that, but it's there. And you're alternating between that 1910 piece up front and what we would call sort of ultra minimalist sci-fi. That's the way I would describe it. So that's all there. That's all there, right? So what is The Beast? It's a fairy tale, kind of. And so as such, it has a moral. And I think the moral is, gosh, like YOLO? Like, you only live once. You got to live now lest your life leaves you, passes you by, and you never lived at all. The idea that the fears that are inside of us, the boogeyman that's out there, is sometimes not nearly as bad as the fear that dwells inside. I think those are the kind of themes that Bonello is wrestling with here. It's and I think more broadly speaking, it's kind of a cautionary tale about a world where everyone is so afraid of that thing over their shoulder, or rejection in this case, right? Like, what if love in its most succinct or tangible form is acceptance, then rejection becomes the antithesis of that, right? A world where their people are so scared of rejection that they ultimately give up on any possibility of love, right? A world that is so terrified of non-existence, oblivion, death, whatever the beast is coming for, that everyone lives as if they're not really human or alive in the first place. So, the fear is kind of like, what if I'm the only real one, the only real person in a world that's afraid to be? So, in that sense, it's more a movie that's really more or less about just the object of fear itself. But inside of that, like the actual plot mechanics are about things like free will versus eternal recurrence. That these two people, I mean, that's the actual plot, is that these, this is a very minor spoiler, but these two people, Léa Seydoux and George McKay of 1918 fame, is they just keep running into each other throughout history in each of these periods, and there is a spark. There is love, there is connection, and so it becomes, what are we then going to do about that? And is there a world in which we can make that happen? And just like Eternal Sunshine, what you get is, if we begin to go through this process as they're meeting and talking about the fact that they've known each other before and what happens in these scenes, if we go through that process of purgation, will we know each other on the other side? And if emotion is gone, is love then gone too, right? So will we make it? So that's it. That's thematics. That's plot. Real quickly, like sound design, cinematography. I think the sound design and cinematography in the 2014 segment is the most convincing. George McKay's character is basically playing that incel killer. His name is escaping me, but you can look him up. It's basically what he did. He was an incel who talked about how women had done this to him and he could never get laid. So then he went on a killing spree. So this is a real story that really happened. And he is clearly based on that in the 2014 iteration of the film, that whole segment. You got a lot of handheld cameras and POVs, and McKay affecting an American accent, and just really playing like a complete dweeb and also something that's sort of dark, lingering on the inside, speaking of Lynchian. So I think the cinematography in that section is impressive. The ultra minimalism of the 2044 section, where you're going basically between like rooms in a retro sci-fi, and then they go to this club, which is themed based on years, and that's where they dance and have these experiences. And then there's these AI. And it's kind of like grainy stock footage. None of it really like completely gripped me. But I'm sure there's some Bonello stands out there that would be like, that's amazing. I think the 1910 piece of the film works the most poorly. It's convincing. It looks like a married woman. She's married to a doll creator. Speaking of dolls, I think there's a thematic thing there as well, like recreations of us, but fake. So it's all there, man. And there is craft. I think I've spoken to the pros a lot, but if I do want to say briefly before we hit the end, I just don't think George McKay is any match for Léa Seydoux, what she brings to this movie, what she brings to the party. So I think she's kind of dwarfed by her performance. I think that there's intention in that, because she is the emotional arc of the film. She carries it, and it's her journey we get to take on, because she's the one changing. The rest of the characters, I guess that's not totally true, but there's like a stasis to them, kind of. So anyway, I think that is one thing. Although McKay is quite good, so it doesn't like damage the film ultimately. I just thought Seydoux was like a complete knockout. I also think that this film is very shaggy and really long, and I think that you could argue there's upwards of 45 minutes of filler in this film. And like I said, I just didn't find the 1910 section all of that interesting. So it's a movie where you like step back and analyze, and you're like, oh, that's so cool. This connection, like philosophically really impressive. But the actual watching of the movie is somewhat sloggy at times, and also kind of pinball-y. Like you're just sort of all over the place. And I guess, we talked about this a half a billion times, but the shagginess, the messiness, the convolutedness of a film, really, that is like beauty in the eyes of the beholder. Like if you love a movie, like I love Denora, then that stuff's great. If you don't, or you don't vibe with it, or you're not on that wavelength, then it feels messy and it kind of knocks at a point. So I'm somewhere in the middle with this one. I just don't think it is a perfect film. I think it's sort of sprawling in a way that it doesn't need to be. But I think that's authorial intent. So if you're on that wavelength, cool. And then the other thing is, like, I just struggle a bit with like a pair of characters who's in love over the course of centuries. I get the like multiple lives, karmic stuff. I just like from an emotional weight love story perspective, I struggled a bit with it. Though I will say the ending still hit me, and that in which case that means that this is effective. So here's your spoiler. End section, the very end. If you don't want to hear anything about it, then stop this, finish it, and come back and let's talk. Okay, the third act in this movie rips, dude. Just rips. I thought it was awesome. When the 2014 section went from like annoying to awesome, especially when it comes back around to him kind of doing this home invasion in this mansion she's house sitting for. And then you get basically a like an intersplicing or an intercuts of the initial green screen scene with him attacking her in this house to sort of bring back to life the beast idea. But he's not the beast. The thing is, like, McKay's character, the incel guy, is not really the beast, but it is a cool way that they cross-reference those two things. So I would just say that the ending is a true nightmare, man. Like, it is a gut punch of an ending, but I loved it. It's one of the best of the year. In a year of actually some pretty impressive, like, final moments. Essentially what happens, I'm sure if you've seen it, you get it, is she doesn't go through with all of it. She's still an emotional being, and therefore, I think, as Bonello wants to say, human. And he does. Oh. So they finally meet. They're finally going to have their love in the present in 2044. They're finally going to fight back against this AI system. And he cannot meet her wavelength. So she collapses on the ground. And she's crying. The tears are falling down her face. And that's the end of the journey. And I got to say, it left me breathless and I guess heartbroken. It's just this insane idea of sabotaging yourself over centuries of lives, you know, not facing fear, fearing that unknown, not going all the way on commitment, not, you know, fearing emotion and having to be rid of it. And where does it leave you? In misery. And so I don't know enough about Bonello's other films. I would love for you guys to comment about, is he saying that misery is kind of this, it's our destiny? We will all befall it in every version of love, in every version of ourself. Like, is that just the human condition? I don't know. I don't know if he's going that far. If he is, then whew, that's a punch. But even as it stands, even as the idea of unrequited or never quite actualized, or it's Romeo and Juliet, right? I mean, he's not dead, but he basically is. Like, I'm awake, you're dead. Oh, it's terrible. It's like a reconstitution of Shakespeare. It's great. It's fantastic. And it really brought the movie up for me so that I could take all of the shagginess because I like the ending. So, all right, so what do we conclude? Guys, that is my thoughts on The Beast, a film that I hope a lot of people see. I think it's on Criterion channel, and you can get it in a couple different places. A messy work that will not land. I mean, it might be on the bottom of my top 10. I don't think it's going to make super high because, again, I don't think it's perfect. But I gave this one, The Beast, an FOF rating of 4 out of 5 stars. Hey, I want to thank you guys for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts, what other films you want me to be doing here on the podcast or on our video on the YouTube channel. And I'd love your comments as well, how you felt about the film, their performances, anything I missed. And I am Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film. You stay firm, friends.